Coming up on Arirang News. In San Francisco, President Yoon stresses the Asia-Pacific economic cooperation should be at the center of accelerating global connectivity as he met CEOs on the sidelines of the APEC summit. The leaders of General Motors, Visa, and Apple pledged to invest in Korea while meeting with President Yoon. Also in San Francisco, for the first time in a year, U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping met in person. During their 4-hour meeting, the leaders agreed to resume military talks and curb fentanyl. A new chapter awaits for more than 500,000 students in South Korea, with this year's national college entrance exam, Suneung, now over. We hear what some of the test takers had to say. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with President Yoon in San Francisco, where his economic diplomacy is in full swing this week. During his meeting with CEOs on the sidelines of the APEC summit, President Yoon calls for Asia-Pacific economic cooperation to be at the center of bolstering global connectivity of the world economy. Our senior presidential correspondent, Suneung, leads us off.
President Yoon pledged a role for South Korea in strengthening global connectivity in crucial areas to overcome multiple crises hindering sustainable development around the world. Speaking at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation CEO Summit on Wednesday, Yoon highlighted the importance of multilateral institutions to ensure the free flow of trade, capital, data, and people across borders. Noting that APEC members had responded swiftly and demonstrated leadership during the Asian financial crisis and the global financial crisis, Yoon said the group must rise to the challenge again in the face of conflicts in Europe and the Middle East, technological rivalry, and the weaponization of resources.
팬데믹을 계기로 부각된 공급망 리스크는 특히 자유무역을 통해 발전해온 아태 지역 국가들에게 큰 위협 요인이 되고 있습니다. 디지털 경제의 무한한 가능성에도 불구하고 국경을 넘는 데이터의 연결과 이를 통한 가치 창출은 아직 시장의 기대에 미치지 못하고 있습니다. 세계 경제가 다시 역동성을 회복하고 지속 가능한 성장을 이어가기 위해서는 APEC이 중심이 되어 세계 경제의 연결성을 가속화해야 합니다.
First, he said trade, investment and supply chains should be strengthened across the region to promote the free movement of goods and services. This would include lowering trade barriers and forging innovative responses such as early warning systems for key resources. He also called for digital interconnectivity, noting that data and transactions should move seamlessly across borders, and digital divides between societies must be removed for fair access and use of technologies. Yoon noted that South Korea announced the Digital Bill of Rights in September based on 5 principles: freedom, fairness, safety, innovation and solidarity. Yoon has been pushing for new international standards to protect and enhance human welfare amid the rapid evolution of digital technology. He also emphasized the need to expand exchanges between young people across the Asia-Pacific to spark innovation and business opportunities. Yoon proposed an exchange program for young scientists with visa waivers and speedy entries to enable travel to study, research and attend workshops between APEC members, based on South Korea's adoption of the APEC business travel card system, which promoted intra-regional trade, investment and people-to-people exchanges. APEC member nations are home to around 2.95 billion people and represent approximately 62% of the world's GDP and 48% of global trade as of 2021. Yoon on Thursday will attend the Leaders Summit of the US-led Indo-Pacific Economic Framework of 14 countries being held on the sidelines, as Washington looks to strengthen its network of trade and tech relations with regional partners amid its rivalry with China. Over the next few days, the top office says Yoon will play a role in leading global discussions at the APEC summit, which marks its 30th anniversary this year, especially as South Korea looks to assume presidency of the regional economic meeting in 2025. Suneung, Arirang News, San Francisco.
Also in San Francisco, calling himself the South Korea's top salesman, President Yoon met with leaders of General Motors, Visa, and Apple, where they've made investment pledges in Korea. Our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon has the details.
Amid a flurry of diplomatic events, President Yoon Suk-yeol is also using his APEC trip to spur on more investment into South Korea. One major announcement, General Motors is looking to expand production in South Korea, according to the top office on Wednesday, speaking in San Francisco.
The GM vice chairman expressed confidence in business activities in South Korea due to the government's bold regulatory reforms and improvements in systems that align with global standards. He announced plans to continue expanding production in Korea, building on the partnership of the last 30 years.
The summit between President Yoon and the GM representatives came at GM's request just before Yoon's appearance at the APEC CEO Summit. While no specific number was announced, according to GM Korea's website, it has 3 plants in Korea with a current production size of 900,000 fully assembled cars and 900,000 cars with final assembly done elsewhere. Other CEOs also approached President Yoon ahead of his keynote speech, including Visa Executive Chair Al Kelly, who said he will be looking to invest into South Korea more with focus on helping small to medium-sized enterprises. Additionally, Yoon's meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook garnered attention given that Apple sources 30% of its parts from South Korea, the most of any country outside the US.
The meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook solidified the supply chain and cooperation system between Apple and Korean component companies. President Yoon praised Apple highly for contributing to the growth of South Korea's digital innovation ecosystem and for inspiring innovation in many future generations and companies worldwide.
Apple CEO shared his ties to South Korea, saying that his father was a Korean War veteran. He also promised more investment into the country, saying Apple wouldn't be where it is without South Korea, citing the more than $100 billion of exchanges in the past 5 years alone. Meanwhile, President Yoon has regularly taken the chance to meet local tech leaders on his overseas trips, and San Francisco was the perfect place for this as well. Meeting with South Koreans and Korean Americans in tech, he promised an improved atmosphere for tech startups with better R&D opportunities.
특히 세계 최우수 연구자들과의 글로벌 연구 협력 기회를 크게 확대하고 해외 연구자는 대한민국 정부의 R&D에 참여할 수 없었던 제한도 지금 없애고 있는 중입니다.
Tech entrepreneurs and science scholars share their learning experiences to President Yoon, especially on the hardships faced by being from overseas. President Yoon called them the future of not only South Korea but the world and encouraged them to take on more challenges. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Staying in San Francisco, U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping have met for the first time in a year. They agreed upon restoring military communication and curbing fentanyl, but divisions remain over Taiwan. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has the key takeaways.
Leaders of the U.S. and China met face-to-face for the first time in about a year in San Francisco on Wednesday and agreed to resume military-to-military communication and take steps to curb the production of fentanyl, a leading cause of drug overdoses in the U.S. After meeting President Xi Jinping for 4 hours, President Biden announced that the two countries are back to direct, open, and clear communications to avoid miscalculations on either side. Their latest agreement comes after Beijing cut off this kind of military communications with Washington last year, after then U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. Relations between the two countries escalated further in February, when the U.S. shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon that flew over its territory. On the subject of fentanyl, Biden said they've agreed to take action to reduce the flow of Chinese-made chemicals that are used to manufacture illicit fentanyl. A senior U.S. official reportedly explained that China will go after specific chemical companies that make fentanyl precursors. According to the White House, during their meeting, Biden also emphasized Washington's commitment to achieve complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Biden and Xi also made clear that they want to stabilize the relationship between the two countries.
We have to ensure that competition does not veer into conflict. And we also have to manage it responsibly, that competition.
The Chinese president also said turning their back on each other is not an option for two large countries like the U.S. and China.
It is unrealistic for one side to remodel the other, and conflict and confrontation have unbearable consequences for both sides.
But they remain at odds on the issue of Taiwan. Xi reportedly told Biden that China has no plans for military action against Taiwan in the coming years, but did lay out conditions where the use of force could be used. Biden reportedly asked China to respect Taiwan's electoral process. But at the end of a press conference after the summit, Biden said he had not changed his view that Chinese President Xi Jinping is still a dictator, while claiming that significant progress was made during the summit.
I mean, he's a dictator in the sense that he is a guy who runs a country that is a communist country that's based on a form of government totally different than ours. Anyway.
This could spark a backlash from Beijing, which had earlier responded furiously when Biden made a similar comment in June, and could affect the positive energy coming out of the meeting that took months of preparation and detailed planning. 배은지, Arirang News.
Moving on. North Korea threatens to take more military action after criticizing the recent security talks between South Korea and the U.S. The regime appears to be seeking to use this as an excuse for a potential test launch of its new ballistic missiles. Defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korea has warned it will take more visible and strategic military action in protest of the recent security talks between the defense chiefs of Seoul and Washington. In a statement on Thursday, the regime's defense ministry claimed that during the annual security consultative meeting held between the allies earlier this week, South Korea and the U.S. have shown that they're aiming for an armed invasion of North Korea. At the SCM, Seoul and Washington updated their tailored deterrence strategy for the first time in 10 years, an agreement established for tailored deterrence against North Korean nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. In response to the North's threat, Seoul's unification ministry defended the revision, saying it is a self-defensive measure to better counter North Korea's nuclear and missile provocations. North Korea appears to be attempting to use Seoul and Washington's bilateral security talks as an excuse to launch major provocations in the near future. This comes as the North reportedly conducted successful tests of its newly developed solid fuel engines for a new type of intermediate-range ballistic missile. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff says a test launch of an IRBM is highly likely.
The development of a solid fuel intermediate-range ballistic missile seems to be a measure to secure strike capabilities targeting the UN Command's rear bases and the U.S. military bases in Guam and Japan, as well as to block U.S. reinforcements and UNC support to the Korean Peninsula. It seems highly likely that actual test launches will take place.
Pyongyang is also widely anticipated to carry out its third attempt at launching a military spy satellite around November 18th, which marks its Missile Industry Day. The JCS says it is closely monitoring North Korea's activities with the U.S. intelligence authorities. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The UN General Assembly's Human Rights Committee adopted on Wednesday its 19th resolution on North Korean human rights. The resolution condemns North Korea's systematic and widespread human rights violations. The third committee, which handles human rights issues, held a meeting at the UN headquarters in New York and passed a resolution by consensus without a vote. The North Korean Human Rights Resolution has been adopted for the 19th time in a row, starting in 2005, and will be sent to a plenary session next month. This year's resolution is almost the same as last year's, but also mentions the recent forced repatriation of North Korean defectors from China. A new chapter awaits for for more than 500,000 students in South Korea, with this year's national college entrance exam, Suneung, now over. It was the first mask-free exam in 4 years, and there was no difficult killer questions. Our Choi Soo-young has what some of the test takers had to say.
The faces of the students were filled with a mix of emotions and a sense of liberation. Finally, this year's Suneung, the college entrance exam in South Korea, is over.
I was a bit nervous at first because the exam was a little bit different from the mock exams in June and September, but it was good.
Korean language was difficult, math was easy, English was manageable, and elective subjects seemed straightforward, so it was okay.
More than 500,000 mainly high school students took the exam. The entire country was dedicated to ensuring a smooth and supportive environment for the test takers on this significant day. In Korea, where there was a strong desire to attend the top universities, the Suneung Day is a nationwide event. Local police officers and Marine Corps Veterans Associations also stepped up to assist in the smooth running of the exam. During the English listening test from 1:05 p.m. to 1:40 p.m., flights were suspended and there were restrictions on the train and vehicle traffic. The Suneung began at 8:40 a.m. with Korean language. Normally, the whole exam lasts about 8 hours, but depending on the number of elective subjects, some students can end up taking the Suneung for more than 9 hours. This exam is like a marathon, continuing with math, English and elective subjects one after another, all in just one day. Many parents stood in front of the school gate with determination and worries and show their support.
I felt relieved. I was watching the news and they said it was difficult. Still, I believe my daughter did her best, so regardless, I'll support her with her medical school preparations and achieve good results.
This year, a total of 504,588 students are taking the Suneung. Of those, 31.7% are retaking the exam, marking the highest proportion of retakes in 28 years. Despite not containing certain difficult questions, the so-called killer questions, there were some indications that it was difficult overall. Also, this year marks the 4th Suneung since the outbreak of COVID-19, but due to relaxed quarantine measures, even students with COVID-19 can wear masks and take the exam in the same testing room as others.
The exam scores will be available for confirmation on Friday, December 8th. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
South Korea's biggest annual retail event, the Korea Sale Festa, kicked off on Saturday and will run for 20 days in total. As shoppers can scour through some of the best deals, the government aims to bolster consumer confidence through this event amid sluggish domestic demand. Our business correspondent Suneung reports.
South Korea's largest annual shopping festival, the Korea Sale Festa, is back again this year on a larger scale and for a longer period.
About 2,500 companies are taking part in the Korea Sale Festa, the most ever. And this year's event has also been extended from 15 to 20 days to ensure that people can take advantage of lower prices.
Marking its 9th year, there are discounts on a wide range of items from food and fashion to automobiles. Large supermarkets are offering up to a 50% discount and buy one get one free promotions on fresh produce, processed food, household goods, and more. With the kimchi making season underway, there have been discounts on kimchi making ingredients too. Hyundai Motor is offering discounts of up to 6 million won or around $4,500 on electric cars, while Kia Motors is offering discounts of up to 7 million won. LG Electronics has included 17 popular items such as dryers, dishwashers, and steam closets in the promotion, while Samsung Electronics has 16 items on discount, including TVs. Also, major cinemas are taking part for the first time, offering a 3,000 won discount on movie tickets.
It's great that there are a variety of discounted items, but it'd be even better if there were bigger discounts on daily necessities.
I use social media a lot, but I didn't know about this event. With prices going up these days, I hope there are good deals on kitchenware and bedding, especially for single-person households.
The government plans to stimulate consumer sentiment through the large-scale discount event. Private spending in the third quarter only rose by 0.3% compared to the previous quarter. Considering the decline in the second quarter, the domestic market is still relatively sluggish. However, experts say that the boost to consumer spending could be limited as the level of discounts is relatively lower than what's offered on China's Singles' Day and Black Friday in the U.S.
On Black Friday, manufacturers are the ones that cut prices, resulting in big discounts. But in Korea, unless manufacturers lower prices, relying solely on discounts from retailers may have limitations in encouraging consumers to open their wallets.
She added that the government should offer incentives to both retailers and manufacturers so that consumers can buy heavily discounted products. Suneung, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, Israeli soldiers stormed into Gaza's largest medical facility amid pressure to prove that Hamas was indeed using the hospital as a command center. Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
Amid international outcry over Israeli military operations in the area close to Al-Shifa Hospital, the Israeli military on Wednesday said it had found the Hamas command center as well as weapons and combat gear belonging to the Palestinian militant group at Gaza's largest hospital. Hamas strongly denied the allegation, calling it lies and cheap propaganda. However, the Israeli Defense Forces released a video showing some of the items recovered at the hospital, including automatic weapons, grenades, ammunition, and flak jackets. The announcement comes as Israel has repeatedly claimed that the hospital sits above a Hamas headquarters, a remark the U.S. has also supported, citing its own intelligence. The White House, however, denied giving Israel the green light to carry out a raid on the Al-Shifa hospital, stressing Israel operated on its own accord. According to National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby on Wednesday, the U.S. did not okay the military operations around the hospital, as the Israeli military acted in accordance with their own establishment procedures. The comments come after Hamas said the storming of the Al-Shifa hospital represents an American green light for the Israeli occupation. Meanwhile, Qatari officials announced Wednesday that they are currently working on a deal between Hamas and Israel that includes the release of around 50 civilian hostages from Gaza in exchange for a 3-day ceasefire. The deal, which is currently being coordinated with the U.S., could potentially see Israel release some Palestinian women and children from Israeli jails, while increasing the number of humanitarian aid allowed into Gaza. If realized, it would mark the largest release of hostages since the armed conflict began on October 7th. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Following the passage of a temporary funding package, the U.S. federal government will be able to avoid a shutdown at least until the beginning of next year. According to AP News, the Senate on Wednesday local time passed a temporary bill that'll keep the U.S. government funded following a vote of 87 in favor and 11 against. This followed a bipartisan vote by the House the day before. The bill will extend funding for the government departments, including Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, and Energy until January 19th, while other departments, including Defense, will be extended until February 2nd. The Senate approval was done days before the deadline on Friday, when the short-term funding package approved in September was set to expire. Now, on the culinary front, Kimchi Day is coming up next week on November the 22nd. It was first declared in 2020, but now with the Global Kimchi Day Declaration ceremony held today in Seoul, the Korea Agri-Fisheries and the Food Trade Corporation are pushing for it to be a global event. As the U.S. Congress is expected to submit a Kimchi Day Resolution to a plenary session on the 6th of next month, with the hope of declaring November 22nd as Kimchi Day, the CEO of the Food Trade Corporation, Kim Chun-jin, has been sending letters to 16 U.S. congressmen, asking for them to adopt the resolution. Meanwhile, at the ceremony in Seoul, 12 people, including K-food buyers from 9 different countries, such as the US and Japan, were nominated as so-called global kimchi ambassadors.
Such as fermented kimchi.
Conditions will start to get frigid tomorrow morning. Minus figures will prevail again across most parts of the country. Seoul see morning temperatures plunging to -1 degree due to frigid wind chills. Temperatures may feel colder than the actual readings. The season's first snow is in the forecast for most regions. Parts of 전라북도 and mountainous regions of Jeju Island will see up to 10 centimeters. 충청남도 and 경상남도 provinces will see 1 to 5. The capital region will only see about light snowflakes flying around. In the meantime, all the coastlines surrounding the peninsula will see gusty offshore winds. Winds will be gusting as fast as 25 meters per second. Under such conditions, it is highly recommended to refrain from fishing or boating. Also, inland regions may see frost for the morning hours. We'll see a wide variation in morning temperatures tomorrow. Chuncheon will be especially cold at -2 degrees. Highs in Seoul get up to 3 degrees Celsius, Gwangju 8, Busan will be reaching 12 degrees. On Saturday, morning temperatures will be plunging to -3 degrees here in Seoul. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this Thursday night newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news. Good night.